Lighthouse for the Blind. My name is Cheryl Cumings. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Workforce Development Manager here at the Lighthouse. I'm a Black American woman who is blind. Today, our speaker is a technology professional with more than 20 years of experience working in the computer field, who will introduce himself in a moment. There are also two ASL interpreters who are on screen and will spotlight themselves throughout the workshop. Captions are turned on and available. I also want to recognize our moderator, Elena. Elena will let us know if there are any raised hands or any questions typed into the chat or the Q&A part. So this is a part of a series of webinars for people who are blind or low vision, deaf-blind, and blind with other disabilities. The purpose of the series of career webinars is to provide you with tools and resources you can use to take charge of your career exploration and career development. Each month, we focus on different topics, such as identifying tools you can use to write a resume, the use of assistive technology in the career search process, interviewing, networking, and self-employment. Please look for future announcements and do join us. So at this point, I invite our speaker to introduce himself and to proceed with the workshop. Jeff?
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Bishop. I work as an IT accessibility consultant for the University of Arizona. I've been working professionally in the field of technology since 1987. I guess that shows you how old I am, I guess. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about how one might be able to utilize artificial intelligence to be able to assist them in a job search throughout that entire process, from the beginning process of figuring out what may be required for a specific role to finding out who might be looking for those roles. Uh, AI can help with that one, but that one actually you're going to find probably better with other tools, which we won't get into today, but we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll talk about resumes and practicing for interviews, and then we'll talk about the cover letter, and we will wrap up with the thank you letter. And we're going to talk about this from the standpoint of a scenario where Joe is seeking to change his career into a role where he is wanting to work in a role with people who are blind or low vision, and we'll get into that in just a minute. Now, for those who have signed up for this webinar, you would have received already the handout that's been provided. And so I'm going to reference that. I'm not going to read it verbatim, obviously, but I will be referencing it. So if you wish to follow along, then by all means, have that in front of you, and that might be of assistance to you.
Oh, Jeff?
Yeah.
I apologize. I did not send out the handout.
Oh, you did not send it out.
No,
Okay.
but I will send it after.
Okay, great. So when
Yes.
you get the handout, you can then follow along if you rewatch this or if you get the recording of the actual webinar. So, okay, perfect. Um, all right. So first, we need to talk about what's possible here. And I want this to be interactive. So I will be asking for people to chime in, provide some constructive feedback on things that you might think Joe should do, or questions that Joe might be willing to ask, these types of things. And I'm going to try to make this somewhat interactive. Now, I can't share my screen, so I will attempt to make sure that I'm reading out as much as I can here that's happening on my screen. But we'll make this work. So Joe is looking for a role working with blind or low vision people. And if you're wanting to change your career, what types of questions Um, do you tend to ask for? Well, you tend to ask about what careers are available for someone that might be interested in working with people who are blind or low vision, right? What education do I require? What is the average salary? And what organizations might hire for this type of a role? Okay. Now, before we get into the use of AI here, let's do a little bit of learning together about how one really communicates with artificial intelligence technology. There's a lot of fear out there that AI is this scary thing and that it's going to take over the world. And it really is not. You just need to be empowered enough to know that you, the human, are in control of the user experience. And what you get out of an artificial intelligence is what you put into it. So what that means is that you need to become a really great master of what we call prompting. Okay. And so we'll talk a lot about prompting here. And then we will also talk about context. And it's important that you set the context, meaning that you give AI as much information as possible about the scenario that you're wanting information about, because then it will tailor its results. The answers that it brings back will be tailored specifically to what you're searching for, meaning the prompt, and what context that you provide, what details that you have given to be able to make it more accurate when it's trying to determine the appropriate answer. All right. So now let's talk about prompting here then, and let's just go over this a bit here. So what do we do here about these types of questions we just brought up? Well, we want to define clear and concise prompts that would be useful. And then we'll talk about the tools that we'll use. I'm going to be primarily using ChatGPT today. That's found at chatgpt.com, ChatGP as in Paul, T as in Tom.com. That's the tool that I will be using. There are plenty of others. There's Google Gemini, there's Microsoft Copilot, there's Perplexity. There's quite a number of them, and they all pretty much do very similar things. I find personally that ChatGPT is a pretty both accessible and pretty robust platform. It's my favorite, unless I'm doing other things, which we won't get into here. But I use other tools for things like software development and things like that. But for what we're doing here, ChatGPT is what I tend to use because you not only can you type to it, but you can speak to it too. And you can even call a phone number and speak to it over the phone and interact with it that way as well. So there's lots of ways to be able to accomplish that. Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is find out what careers are available. So the question might be something like this. What careers are available for someone that might want to work with blind or low vision people? Okay. That's the first question that you're going to probably ask. And by the way, you can stack questions here. So if you have multiple questions, you can bring them all up at once and type them in as one series of questions to ChatGPT, and it will understand the context. In fact, it actually is better to do it this way because you're building on, first of all, you're building on really what you're wanting to achieve here. So what careers are available for someone who wants, to work with blind or low vision people? And then what education or training do I require to work with blind or low vision people? Again, we're not only asking about what types of careers, we're asking about educational opportunities and training. And it's always good to know, is this career something that I'd be able to put food on the table and be able to earn a living and support my family? So what is the average salary for someone who wishes to work as a rehabilitation technician one in the state of Arizona, for example, where I am? And finally, what organizations hire for rehabilitation technician one type roles. Okay. Now that name, that title may vary, and we're just providing it here as an example here. Okay. Now, I'm going to pause here for a second, and then when we come back after you give me some feedback, we're going to actually put this into ChatGPT, and I'll show you some of the feedback that it provides, just to sort of give you a sampling here of what's possible. Okay, so what for those in the audience, if you want to raise your hand, um, what other questions or what other things might Joe need to ask about when doing a bit of research about this role? Anyone have any thoughts?
So Jeff, as people are raising their hands, I have just a question about punctuation.
Uh-huh.
Do you need it? So like as you type those, if you type those things in, those questions, do you have to put a question mark
Yeah,
and
you
then like,
should.
okay,
Yeah. Because remember, it's really looking at English language patterns.
okay.
So really it's trying to understand what you're trying to communicate based on sentence structure. So you want to make sure that you're capitalizing the first word of a sentence, that you're putting appropriate punctuation in. Spelling is it's a little easier for it to figure out a spelling error,
Okay.
and it will actually know that and kind of figure that out because it has the context of the sentence, and so it tends to be pretty accurate about that. But it is always best to make sure that you're using proper grammar, or at least you know relatively good sentence structure as much as possible. Okay. Anyone have any thoughts on the question about what else might Joe need to ask about?
All right. Looks like we have a question from Jaden. Jaden, you
Okay.
are unmuted. If you could also unmute yourself.
Hi, Jaden.
Hello.
Hello.
So I was thinking one of the things that you could ask about is you could talk about maybe from your experience level. You could talk about like what level of experience or how many years of experience does it take to move up from like an entry level position or something
Oh,
along those
perfect.
lines. You could talk about advancement opportunities.
Love that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to come down to the question here about what education and training do I require for this role. And I'm going to type another question here, something to the effect of maybe something like, how many years of education uh, or training should one have to participate in this role? Okay, perfect. Anyone else have any questions here? And then we're going to feed all this to ChatGPT and see what it gives us. And by the way, I will supply if you would like, I will supply the answers that are given from ChatGPT, and maybe we can include that in the handout, or at
Oh,
least
that's awesome. Yeah,
additional documentation for you. Okay.
yeah,
So,
that'll be great.
okay, so I'll do that. Okay. So okay, anyone else? Maybe we can take one more, just in the sake of time here. Any other hands? Okay, so I'm going to move on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy these questions to the clipboard, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT to tell me information about this. So I'm going to open up a browser, and I'm doing that right now. And I'm going to paste this in. So I'm going to paste in all of the questions that we've went over here. And it's going to give me a pretty in-depth answer here. Okay. So here we go. I pasted them in. I'm waiting for it to respond. And it's as simple as going to the website. You can either use it free, meaning that you don't have to sign in with an account, but if you want to be able to go back and look at things historically, you really should create an account to do that. And then you paste in the question or series of questions or other statements that you might have that are related, and you press enter, and then it goes off and it tells you that it's working on it and it's done. Okay, now, there is a lot here, folks. I'm just going to give you the headings that it provides here because again, this is it's pretty extensive. It gives you, very, very in-depth answers when you tend to ask very in-depth series of questions. Okay. So it says, first of all, it says, here's a breakdown based on the series of questions that you've provided. Okay. Um, so first it talks about careers working with uh, blind or visually impaired people. Common roles include rehabilitation technician or specialist, orientation and mobility specialists, low vision specialists, assistive technology specialist or training, rehabilitation instructor, social worker or counselor, or a TVI or teacher of the visually impaired. Then it talks about books or education for entry-level positions, and it goes into a bunch of things about that. Typically requires a high school diploma. Some employers require some college in the field. On-the-job training is common. Hands-on experience with assistive technology is crucial. Okay, and I'm just going to read the rest of the headings here. It goes into what O&M specialists require, assistive technology specialists, years of education or training required. So for example, the rehabilitation technician requires high school diploma with on-the-job training and uh, familiarity with assistive technology-based tools. Okay. And it goes on and on talking about what's required for each type of role. Um, a, a low vision technician or social worker requires 2 to 4 years of education, on the job experience, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And then it talks about salaries. $18 an hour or 37.5 or so per year. I'm not sure how accurate that is these days, but so that's going to vary. And by the way, when you do it, it's probably going to vary based on where you live. And then it talks about office buildings or organizations that are hiring. Um, I see. The office building is ChatGPT loves to put emoji symbols next to the headings because it thinks it wants to be cute and fun and all those fun things. So it actually doesn't say office buildings. It's an office building picture. Organizations hiring rehab technicians. The state of Arizona, Arizona State School for the Deaf and Blind, nonprofit centers, Arizona Association of the Blind and Visually Impaired, or SAVI. Oh, that's pretty interesting that it has that here. That's good. Um, Sun Sounds of Arizona, na national advocacy organizations like American Council of the Blind and National Federation of the Blind, and more. And then it provides a summary at the end, where basically it takes all this information, puts it in a nice little compact table, and away you go. So you get lots of really cool information in a pretty cool summarized fashion. And by the way, you can then continue to ask specific questions that relate to the things that you just asked about, and it will remember what it was referring to, and it will be able to use that as quote context quote to be able to facilitate you through that process. All right. Now let's go on to number 2, understanding the job posting. Now, one of the best things that you're going to do here is you're going to go out and you're going to find a job. Uh, Someone's looking for a specific role, and it's going to have a job description. The first thing that you want to do is come back and feed that to your AI right alongside of what we just covered here. Okay. Um, so that's going to be crucial. So literally take the job description as it's written on the website or however you received it, doesn't matter where you got it from, but wherever it is, how and however detailed it is, it doesn't matter. And literally just copy it and paste it into ChatGPT and say, here's additional information. Please add more details as it relates to these specific responsibilities. Okay. And so that is extremely important. We'll talk about why that's important coming along here, but um, this is going to be really, really helpful. And not only is it helpful from the standpoint of building your resume or talking about yourself in a cover letter, those types of things, but it also allows you to be able to ask questions or have AI assist you in your career search, or at least preparing for your career search. For example, when you're preparing for your interview. Okay. So in this case, the job responsibilities for the type of position that Joe was looking for, uh, he's going to provide customer service to the public, staff, and partners, coordinate referrals, do intakes and authorizations, track the invoices and supplies, schedule interpreters, etc. Uh, Manage mailroom equipment. Oh, it's interesting. Joe's going to be busy. Handling schedules and taking phone calls for special events. Okay. So again, you could put a prompt such as summarize the main responsibilities of this job. And you could then feed it all the information of the job description that's that you have that you've been given or that you have found. Okay. And finally, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but uh, what type of skills should I highlight on my resume for this specific job? Remember that every single resume really needs to be highly tailored to the role or job that you're applying for. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to write a resume and I'm just going to send it out to 100 different companies and hopefully I get a job. That's not how this works. The way this works these days is that you need to be highly relevant in the information that is shared, and the more that you can relate to the roles and responsibilities and duties of that job description that you're applying to, the better off and the better chance you'll have of getting your foot in the door for at least an interview. Okay.
Right. Can I just
Okay.
say,
Sure.
yeah, I just want to say here, I mean, so the caveat there is that make sure that your resume is telling the truth about you.
Yes.
Because if you get invited into an interview and you're asked about a particular thing and you have nothing to say about it, um, it certainly puts the rest of your resume and puts you, I think, as a candidate into, I would probably not a good position because everything is then suspicious if they're like,
That's
and
right.
also as you do this, look at sort of the words that are being used and make
Hmm.
sure those words actually reflect words that you would use to talk about yourself.
Yes. And it's important that you also tell AI the tone in which you want these things represented when you're actually asking it to build or construct documents for you. And by the way, these aren't the final versions that you're going to use. These are just a starting point. You need to then take them and make them your own, right? AI is not a solution, it's a tool. It's meant to be a guide for you, or at least to give you information. It's up to you to be able to take that information and to build it into something that's creative. In fact, a lot of employers have gotten very good at knowing, what's been generated through the use of AI versus what's been created by hand by people themselves. And a lot of automated systems will throw out resumes that have been generated through the use of AI. So make sure that you're spending time to make it personal. Add your voice to what you're representing. And by the way, if you're on the internet and you've been on the internet for some period of time, everything that you have said, everything that someone has said about you stays on the internet forever. Okay? Meaning that don't make something up be very honest, be very truthful in what you're relaying in your resume, because you know what? Employers go and check this stuff. And they'll go, oh, well, let's go find out what he said about things on his social media account. Or let's go find out what other things I might be able to do a Google search on about this person. That happens. And sometimes that's good or bad. And so you just want to make sure that you're representing yourself in the right light. Okay. Number three, rewriting Joe's resume with AI. So basically, what you're going to do here is you're going to take the job description, you're going to take a list of the things that you have done. You probably have some, bullets or some information that you, in fact, we have some here about Joe, that are things that you have accomplished in your life, whether it's education, volunteer work. By the way, volunteer work is really crucial too. Uh, you know, what you've done in reference to learning, what certifications you may have, any of these types of things is really important. What technology you have mastered, what skills you bring to the table in reference to pieces of software, these types of things. So Joe has done this. He first talks about an experienced machinist, which is not necessarily relevant to applying for a role working with blind or low vision people. However, it is part of his job history, and so you want to make sure that it's represented. Okay, and it goes into a lot of detail about him being an expert um, in Sigma protocols and other things. So that's cool because it shows that he has been able to focus on attention to detail. He's motivated to learn. He's a self-starter, these types of things, right? Then it says, seeking to contribute my skills and talents in growing into a role as a machinist. And then he talks about key tech skills. So he's very comfortable using Microsoft Office, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, and Outlook, Google, Outlook, and Bing. Excuse me, Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Email communication, Outlook, and Gmail. Effective communicator, former instructor, excellent team worker, and relationship builder, et cetera, et cetera. And then he talks a little bit about content, context and purpose, what from his prior roles and then what he's trying to achieve. So take all of this information and give it to ChatGPT and then ask AI to help pivot this into a resume. Now, in the handout, there's an appendix in the back that sort of shows all of the before and after snapshots of taking this all the way through the entire process of building the resume, everything from education and skills and all of those things. So I'll leave that to you to review, but basically you're going to want to really help AI in creating this resume, and you're going to go back and forth. Think of this as a conversation that you're really just having with someone, right? Let's say that you hired someone to help you build your resume, right? Well, you would do exactly the same thing. They would ask you a series of questions, you would provide answers. Then it would potentially ask you, in fact, it's okay to say, hey, AI, by the way, as you're helping me build this resume, continue to ask me questions to help facilitate making this a really great resume. And it will. And actually, we'll talk about that because there's another really cool thing that you can do with AI to practice your interviewing skills. So stand by for that. That's really, really cool. And this is quite common if whether or not you're going for a job interview or you're studying for a test or whatever you're doing. It's a great way of providing an opportunity to learn. Okay. Rewrite my resume for a rehabilitation technician 1 job, focusing in on customer service, administrative support, and working with people with disabilities. Highlight my experience in scheduling, tracking paperwork, using Microsoft Office. Change my career summary to reflect my desire to help people in diverse environments. Okay. And then there's additional prompts here that are seen in the handout. Make these bullets match the highlights in the resume. And then you can list specific items here. Include language about working with or wanting to serve people with disabilities, even if it's just a desire to learn. Okay. So these are just some examples. Can anyone else think of any additional things that one might, want to think about adding to the resume, or that you might want to provide to either AI or someone who's assisting you in crafting that resume? Any hands?
All right. Jaden, you are unmuted if you'd like to
Go ahead,
unmute
Jaden.
yourself.
Oh, so hey, so you could talk about maybe some of your personal experiences and background and what you're applying for, like maybe ChatGPT or somebody who's writing your resume would maybe like some context is maybe like to your personality or some of your personal background and some of the other jobs you've done to lead up to this point.
Yeah, a couple of things that this is a great one, Jaden. A couple of things you might want to do here is make sure that if you've had, especially volunteer work or other roles that you've worked at, uh, go ahead and make sure that they're a part of your resume, as long as it's not too long. And the cool thing about the internet, of course, is that you can ask I to search the web and try to find additional information about things that you or projects that you might have worked on. Now, the only thing I'm going to caution you about this is that you need to make sure that it's accurate. So before you have it start adding everything to your resume, you might want to prompt something like, go out on the web and search for other projects that I have accomplished. And by the way, it will know who you are because you will probably tell it who you are. There is one final tip here I'll give you at the end about setting a setting in ChatGPT that I would highly recommend that you do, but we'll get there in a minute. And it may find other, for example, Jeff Bishops, right, that are not relevant. That there are other Jeff Bishops in the world, I'm sure. In fact, I know there are because I know one in Texas, and he and I swap email all the time because he gets my email and I get his. So that's fun. Um, it's very interesting because he has a .org and I have a .com, and so it tends to get a little crazy. Um, so it's all about ensuring that the information that it finds is accurate. So make sure that you're asking a question like, go out and look for items that I might have worked on or information that might be about me and return it to me so I can review it to see if it's relevant to the resume that I'm building at the time. And then it will consolidate it, it will provide it to you, or it will tell you it can't find anything. And if you find it relevant, then you can ask it to now take that information and embed it in the resume in a way that's professional and that meets the goal here of what we're trying to achieve. Okay. Now, we have finished creating the resume, and we're going to come back and we're going to loop back around and we're going to feed the resume back to AI, meaning you're going to probably copy it and you're going to paste it in Word and you're going to clean it up, right? And you're going to do all of those things, put it in your own voice. And then you're going to then take the job description that you found online for the job that you're applying for, and you're going to couple them together. So you're going to open up ChatGPT or whatever tool you're using. You're going to say, here's my resume. Here is the job description. How accurate does my resume match the job description? And it will be very sometimes AI is very brutally honest, and it will give you very, very, very constructive feedback about whether or not it's meeting the goals of that job description. And if it's not, then it will provide recommendations for you to adjust the resume. And maybe you could even ask it to if you have suggestions, help me by asking specific questions that might help lead to correcting it to be able to make it better match the job description. Okay, it's kind of depends on what AI brings back. Remember, it's what you're going to see in the document that we're providing to you may not exactly match what you see online because your scenario is slightly different. But the goal here is make sure that whatever you're doing, that you are matching the job description. That is so very, very important. Okay. And next, we're going to create a cover letter. Now, what is the purpose of a cover letter? It really is to introduce yourself, your personality, and how you fit into this role. Okay. And this is why it's also good to do research about the company that you're applying to. Find out as much information as you possibly can. You can use AI to do that. You can use Google to do that. You can use any, pieces of technology that you want for this. And you can ask AI to assist you in creating a cover letter. Okay. Okay. Write a cover letter for a rehabilitation technician level 1 job for this specific organization based on the context of my resume and the job description, with a highlight of representing my customer service experience and administrative skills. Make my cover letter concise, professional, but friendly. Ooh, that's tough, but it tends to do that pretty well. It's pretty good at language, actually. Revise this letter to show my work or volunteer work with people who are blind or low vision. Okay. Then make sure that it has the resume. So if you've started a new prompt, then make sure it has the resume that you've built. Make sure it has the job description. Okay. These are the things that you need to provide to ensure that it has the quote context quote to be able to fulfill what you're trying to achieve here. Okay. Now, don't just read the cover letter. You can, but what I'm going to recommend that you do is there's going to be a button, and all of these have it. There's going to be a button that allows you to have the AI read it to you. So sit back and let someone else's voice read you that letter and pretend that you are the manager that is reviewing your resume and reviewing your cover letter. And, see if it sounds right to you. Is it your tone? Is it your voice? Is it what you would say or speak to someone? Okay, good enough. If not, then take the sample that it provides and again, rework it to be able to meet your personality, your voice. Remember, you need to represent you in the work that you're doing here with your cover letter. Okay. Now that you have your resume and your cover letter done, it's time to share it with friends and other associates. Make sure that you're doing that. Make sure it looks professional, visually appealing. Make sure that you have good sentence structure. Make sure that it makes sense to, I hand it around, toss it around, let other people take a look at it, let them provide you, quote, constructive feedback. That's going to be really important for you to do that. Okay. Now, let's say that we have about 20 minutes left, and I want to make sure we have time for questions. So I'm going to pick up the pace just a little bit. Number 6, now you have gotten an interview scheduled. So what is the first thing that you want to be able to do when that happens? Well, you want to be practicing for your interview. So take this cover letter, take the resume, take the job description, all the pieces of this puzzle that you've put together, and then open up ChatGPT and ask it a question like, can you please provide me a practice interview, that I can be able, that we can simulate so that I can practice before the actual interview begins. And it will. and it will actually return, questions in question format. It will probably say something like, "Hello, Jeff, welcome to XYZ company. Uh, Appreciate you coming in today. Tell me a little bit about yourself." And so you'll type that in. You'll type everything in. And by the way, one of the things that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to tell it, "Hey, and I'm going to want feedback on these answers, at the end of the interview. So keep track of it and provide me really detailed answers and provide me constructive feedback on how to make them better." Okay. Make sure that, again, that you've researched the employer, the mission of the organization, and make sure you have those levels of detail as well so that you can provide as much about it to AI as possible so that it can formulate great questions. And by the way, it will also go out, it's kind of sneaky, it will also go out and actually look on the web and try to find out information about this company that you've mentioned. And it will pull information that you may not have even thought about. And so in that case, you can ask AI, "Well, how did you come up with these questions? What was the detail that you found that made you come up with these questions?" See, this is another way for you to do research to learn more about the company itself as well. Okay. You can even ask it, when you're done with the interview, what type of job is this? What type of clothing should I wear? Do I need to wear a suit and tie, or can I just wear a nice pair of slacks and a button-down shirt? Or can I go in, less formal attire? Um, it kind of depends on the culture, right? So that's always good to learn more about. Okay. And again, we provide all kinds of examples here of prompts in the information that we're providing here that you'll be able to utilize. Um, what are some common interview questions for a rehabilitation technician one job? Simulate a mock interview for this job. Okay. Uh, and then improvise here. Get as creative as you want. Remember, it's a tool that's basically going to work for you. So be as creative as you want and get as complex as you want with it. It's perfectly fine. Now you've had your interview, and now it's time to write a thank you letter. So again, you're going to rinse and repeat. You're going to basically feed AI all the information back. And by the way, ChatGPT is pretty good. It kind of remembers the things that you've done in the past. It's kind of frightening, actually. I can open up ChatGPT and say, "Hey, I worked on this document 3 weeks ago with you," and it will go, "Yeah, I recall that." So a lot of this information you don't necessarily have to re-upload or repaste into ChatGPT. It may ask for you to do that, but it's got a pretty decent memory about the interactions that you're having with the tool itself. This is one reason why you want to make sure that you're creating an account, because if you don't have an account, then it doesn't have any way of knowing who you were the next time you come back. See? So make sure that you sign in, you create an account, you sign in, go into the settings of ChatGPT and tell it not to train on the data that you're putting into it. Now, it will use the information that you're providing to it for your own use, but it won't share it out to the real world. So you want to make sure that you're doing that as part of your use of ChatGPT. So again, feed it all the information, or at least inquire that it has it. So you could say something like, "Do you remember the resume and the cover letter and the job description that I've been working with for this job interview?" And it will say, "Yes, I do remember that. How can I help you with that?" And then you could tell it, "Hey, I just had a job interview and I want to prepare a thank you letter. Can you help me craft that? And, can you ask me specific questions that might be relevant to the creation of this thank you letter?" And oftentimes you'll want to put in something memorable about the interview, or, something that will facilitate them remembering who you were. Because, if they're interviewing 30 people, you want to stand out in the crowd, right? Okay. Make sure you do send a thank you letter, though. It shows professionalism, gratitude, and so much more. Not to mention interest in the role that you're pursuing. Okay. Write a thank you letter for the rehabilitation technician one role that I'm pursuing. make it polite and share my excitement on and interest in joining the team. Make it brief, but reference the discussion that we had about X, whatever X is, right? Whatever you've been talking about. Okay. So this is what you need to do from the standpoint of just, focusing in on everything from the beginning process of learning about the role that you might be interested in getting a job for, to, preparing for, you know, finding that job that you want to apply for, generating that resume, learning more about the company, preparing for that interview, uh, having that great cover letter with you, and also that thank you letter. All of these are crucial components of an effective job search. And you can use artificial intelligence as the process to be able to assist you. Remember that AI is nothing but a tool, okay? It is not the be all end all answer to life, the universe, and everything. It's not 42, meaning that's not the answer to life, the universe, and everything. It's going to be what your experience is. It's going to be what you bring to the table, what is unique about you. That's what's going to sell you, okay? It will assist you in making you look as good as possible. But again, you need to make sure that it's accurate. We often talk about artificial intelligence doing things that are called hallucinations, and meaning that it's making things up or providing incorrect information. This is very common. So you want to make sure that you're reading over the material that it generates, making it, changing it to your own voice, and ensuring that it represents you and that it's 100% accurate. Don't let it lie about you. Don't let it be very truthful, because if you write it down in a resume, then an employer is going to research whatever you wrote. Okay. So make sure that if you're using AI to help you, make sure that you follow through in making sure that it's accurate. Okay, personalize all AI output. Never just copy and paste. Okay, never, never, never do that. Use specific and direct prompts. Remember, the answers and the feedback or the material that you get back are going to be as good as the questions that you ask, as well as the information or material that you provide, when we call that context, as part of this process. Review everything and make sure it's accurate and it's in your, quote, authentic voice, quote. Don't share private information while you're generating this resume or cover letter using AI. Okay, so don't share your address, don't share phone numbers, don't share your social security number. Remember, this is the internet. Okay, what's typed here stays here. Even if you tell it not to train it, don't trust it. Remember, it's your data, it's nobody else's. Use AI as a brainstorming and editing tool only, okay? Don't use it as the final tool that you're going to end up with here. Now, you could for whimsical things, like if you're just wanting to have it fix a quick email that you're sending out or something like that, that's one thing. But we're talking about professional documents that you're preparing to try to get a job. And so you want to make sure that you represent these things, really well. Okay. So I think we have about 10 minutes left here, and I wanted to leave time for any type of questions that you may have about this process. And I think we also need to leave a little bit of time for wrap up as well. But I'm ready to take any questions, constructive feedback, concerns, or anything of that you would like to ask. And by the way, it can be on anything related to AI, really, but we should try to keep it to the topic here about job searches or ways to represent yourself in the best light possible. So, does anyone have any specific questions?
All right, we have a hand up from Jaden.
Hello, Jaden.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Um, just two things. One, I've noticed that I have to usually tweak the output quite a bit when I'm writing resumes because it tends to have accuracy issues. So, like a lot of times, I have to go through and correct some of the output that it makes.
Hmm.
That's um, pretty well said. And then also, I was just wondering if I were to use the like research tool of ChatGPT, would
Ah,
that be a good way to possibly find like job opportunity? Like yesterday I said like I wanted to possibly be like an assistive technology trainer.
hmm.
And I had it kind of do some research with the research tool. They kind of
Yeah.
searched and I noticed there was some accuracy issues, but it was crazy how much output it actually gave me.
Yeah, so let's talk about research. And all the AI tools have this capability these days. It's basically for those of you that don't know what this is. Basically, you can enable a mode when you're using AI called research mode, and you can ask it very detailed questions. And by the way, if you're going to do this, you get limited use of this tool for free. So make sure that if you're going to do it, make sure that you really spend time on building your prompts and providing as much background as possible on the context of the question that that you're proposing to it, and as many questions as you would like as part of this process. Because remember, what it's going to do is it's going to go off and it's going to take all of this, kind of mush it together. It will ask you a series of questions after you've prompted to just get a little more context or a little additional information from you. And then it's going to go off and it's going to scour the web, you know, pretty deeply and try to get you the most accurate information that it can uh, about the topic that you're asking about. Okay. And sometimes this could take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour. So the thing that I recommend people do is if you're going to use something like ChatGPT, that you install ChatGPT on your mobile device and log into the account that you're using. It will send you a notification when it finishes its research, and then you can go online and read it and find out what it uh, found. You can also ask it for a status, so you can say, "Hey, I know you're doing research on." What it takes to be a rehabilitation technician level one. Can you tell me the status of your research? And it will come back and say, yes, I have found 82 sources. I'm compiling the information right now, and it's taking a little bit of time because I want it to be concise and professional and accurate, and I want to make sure all the information is cited correctly with authoritative links, et cetera, et cetera. And it will say, I'll be done in the next 45 minutes. Okay. Okay, fine. Hey, this beats you doing it, right? So it's going off and crunching all this information, pulling it all together. It generates a really great report. When it's done generating the report, and actually you can even make this a part of the initial question. You can ask it to generate a Word document with a final output, and it will do that, and then you can download the Word document and study it away. So it's a cool feature. Remember that you get very limited use of this for free. As you pay for different levels of service with all of these AI tools, you get more and more capabilities, and that includes more ability to use research above and beyond what you get for free. So great question, Jaden. And yes, it's a great tool. Just use it wisely is my best advice on that one. Okay. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any other hands raised or anything in
Okay.
the chat.
Well, I want to thank all of you so very much for allowing me to come and speak to you today. I think at this time I'm going to return control of the meeting to Cheryl to wrap this
Perfect.
up. Thank you.
Great. Wow. Thank you, Jeff. This was like so uh, comprehensive. I think that's the word I would use. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come and to lead this discussion. And as Jeff has mentioned, there is a handout, and I'll send that to everyone who's participating. So thank you, Jeff.
You're
I
welcome.
also want to thank our ASL interpreters, and I want to thank Elena for her assistance in being here. I want to thank you too for choosing to be here, because there are other things you could be doing. And I truly hope that the information we provided today to you gives you another tool that you can use to pursue your particular career goals. So thank you very much. There's a survey, and I'm going to ask you if you could take a few minutes to complete the survey. Your feedback is really helpful to us, and we really appreciate it. So again, thank you for being here. And we have other future webinars, so please look out for the information about those and join us. So thanks. Elena, we're done. We can close this out. Thanks a lot.